Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in. Take a quick second and look around you. Pick out a simple, everyday object. Maybe it's the cup of coffee on your desk or even the chair you're sitting on. It seems incredibly normal, right? I mean, it just sits there, solid, independent, and completely separate from you and everything else in the room. This is how we experience the world day in and day out. But what happens when reality just completely shatters our common sense? The sources we're exploring today, drawing from both modern quantum physics and ancient Christian theology, suggest something absolutely fascinating. They insist that, at a fundamental level, this normal, classical view of a perfectly separated, predictable world might actually be a total illusion. So, to understand how our intuition fails us, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The illusion of normal. 2. The quantum reality. 3. The Christian framework. 4. Forces of the unseen. And finally, 5. Embracing the mystery. Prepare yourself for a journey that's really going to test the limits of human intuition. Section 1. The illusion of normal and the limits of classical thinking. For centuries, our understanding of the universe was built on this very classical Newtonian assumption. Objects exist independently and they influence each other in perfectly predictable ways over distance and time. In this view, a cup is just a cup and physical distance is a real, tangible barrier. Section 2. The quantum reality and shattering physical intuition. Because when we shrink down to the microscopic realm, like right down to the level of atoms and electrons, the universe abandons those predictable rules entirely, and our physical intuition is just completely shattered. Which brings us to a seriously mind-bending concept, superposition. The sources define this as a state where a particle exists in a range of unresolved possibilities simultaneously, right up until it's measured. Think of a spinning coin. While it's spinning rapidly on a table, it's a blur, right? It's not definitively heads or tails. It exists as a combination of both, until it finally slaps down on the table and you measure it. Let's see how this actually builds in a real-world scenario with the famous double-slit experiment. Step 1. We fire tiny electrons at a wall with 2 slits in it. Step 2. Instead of acting like solid little bullets, they act like spread-out waves of probability that overlap with each other. Step 3. This overlapping builds a striped interference pattern on the back wall. But here is the real twist in Step 4. When we actively set up a measurement device to see exactly which slit the electron goes through, it stops acting like a wave entirely. It collapses into a single, predictable particle. The physics sources call this the measurement problem, and it basically proves that at its base layer, reality is just waiting to be defined. Now, if your head is spinning a bit right now, you are in spectacular company. Listen to this quote from Nobel laureate Richard Feynman. If you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. I absolutely love sharing this because it brilliantly highlights that this confusion isn't just human ignorance. It is literally a fundamental feature of our universe. Section 3. The Christian framework and shattering spiritual intuition. Just as the quantum realm shatters our physical intuition, the sources show how ancient spiritual tenets also deliberately defy classical human logic. The crucial point here is how both of these frameworks handle seemingly impossible contradictions. On the physics side, we have wave-particle duality, the proven fact that an electron is simultaneously a spread-out wave and a localized particle. On the theology side, we have the dual nature of Christ. The sources detail how Christians believe Jesus is simultaneously fully God and fully human, bridging the gap between the divine and humanity. In both fields, these dualities are accepted, not because they're easy for the human brain to picture, but because they are completely foundational to how their specific reality operates. And we see this exact same thing again with the doctrine of the Trinity. Christian theology teaches that there is only one God, but 3 distinct persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Each person is considered fully God, yet they are not separate beings. The source material points out that Christians freely admit this is a concept much, much greater than the human mind can ever fully compress into standard logic. This actually brilliantly illustrates how the spiritual reality unfolds structurally over time. Trace this timeline with me. It begins with creation, representing a perfect connection. Then comes the fall, where sin causes a fundamental separation. This is followed by Jesus' resurrection, which acts as the ultimate bridge for that gap. And finally, the timeline points to Pentecost, where the Holy Spirit unites believers. It's an entire chronological narrative dealing with the loss and then the ultimate restoration of deep connection. Section 4. Forces of the unseen and invisible connections across space. Let's explore how both the physical and spiritual frameworks deal with these profound, invisible links that cross vast distances. In quantum physics, this is defined as quantum entanglement. This is where particles merge into a single shared system. The measurement of one instantly determines the state of the other, regardless of how far apart they are. To kind of wrap your head around this, think of a left and a right glove placed in separate boxes. If you ship one box across the world and then open yours to find a left glove, you instantly know the other box has the right glove. But wait, actually scratch that, it's way stranger. As the sources point out, quantum particles don't actually have a predetermined state while traveling. They are genuinely unresolved until the exact moment you measure them. This non-local reality caused massive waves in the scientific community. Albert Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. He had a deep discomfort with this because it seemed to violate the absolute rule that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. It threatened local realism itself, the whole idea that objects are separate and distance actually matters. Now, let's contrast Einstein's scientific frustration with the theological embrace of the unseen. On one hand, we have quantum non-locality, where particles instantly correlate across space without any physical signals. On the other hand, the Christian framework presents the Holy Spirit, described in the sources as an omnipresent person who instantly intercedes, unites, and influences across all space. While this concept of action at a distance deeply troubled classical physicists, it's totally celebrated in Christian theology as a deeply personal connection unbound by any physical boundaries whatsoever. So, if there is one absolutely crucial point to take away from this explainer, it is this. At the deepest levels, reality is not made of isolated objects, but of relationships. Both the proven science of quantum non-locality and the relational theology of the Holy Spirit emphasize that systemic connection is the true foundation of existence. Section 5. Embracing the mystery and the limits of human understanding. Here, we're going to summarize how both fields basically force us to abandon our reliance on everyday intuition and lean into a much deeper complexity. Now, you might be wondering, if the universe is this weird and entangled, why does my coffee cup just look like a normal coffee cup? Well, the physics sources explain this through a process called decoherence. Let's walk through it. Step 1. Particles are constantly entangling with their environment. Step 2. These countless interactions spread quantum information far and wide. Step 3. This process, called decoherence, dilutes those sharp quantum correlations. And because of this chaotic web of interactions, step 4 happens. A stable, classical world finally emerges to our eyes. So the quantum weirdness doesn't disappear. It just hides beneath the incredibly complex interactions of everyday life. The theological sources describe a strikingly similar dynamic beneath the surface of normal life. Christians view the invisible, continuous work of the Holy Spirit as constantly active in creation and life. The Spirit bears witness, intercedes in prayer using deep relational knowledge, and binds individuals together into what the texts call the temple of the Holy Spirit. Just like quantum interactions, this is viewed as a constant, underlying web building spiritual relationships way beyond what the eye can see. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative question to leave you with today. Are the physical and spiritual boundaries we see every single day just an illusion, masking a deeply interconnected reality? It really does seem that whether we look through the lens of a high-powered microscope or the pages of ancient theology, what we casually call reality might just be the surface of an infinitely complex, relational universe. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. And hey, keep questioning what you see right in front of you.